because when I came home after 8 years, I paroled out to my brother's walk-in closet.
I still got 3 years of parole left.
Today is something completely different. It is on incarceration, but it is about the inside, somebody that worked on the inside that was a whistleblower. And we are with DJ Vodika and his attorney, Lanny Tron, and they're going to tell a story about what happened in the California prison system. And Lanny, we're going to start with you. Maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us how you met DJ, and then we'll introduce DJ.
Sure. Again, it's Lanny Tron. I have a law firm here in Camarillo, California with my wife. We represent employees in litigation as well as catastrophic personal injuries. A long time ago, probably a decade now, I got a referral about a prison guard who grew up in Camarillo, the hometown where I had my practice, and he needed some legal help employment-wise. And I, of course, agreed to meet him, no problem. So one afternoon, DJ drives down. He was at that time in Central California. He'd been a prison guard probably a decade by now, or if not more. He drove down with an assistant warden, and we sat and we went through his story. And I mean, my only experience with prison guards and prisoners is just what you see in TV. But this was a story that was absolutely captivating. A story about DJ and how he felt about what his fellow prison guards were doing at a prison in California. And it was, to me, unbelievable. I literally couldn't believe the things he was describing to me about what was happening there. And this assistant warden had come along because he had seen it, and he thought, for both of their sakes, they should get some legal representation. So we sat, we visited for a long while, and I was so humbled by the experiences that he talked about and the things he did in the prison, not only for his fellow guards, but for the inmates, and what he'd gone through and how difficult his life was, that I had really nothing to say other than, you need representation, I will represent you. I will. This guy was going to be a whistleblower against the atrocities, and I want to say atrocities, that were happening in California prisoners, to California prisoners inside the prison walls. For most of us, you go to a prison and they have the 20-foot walls, you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, you can't see it.
You can't see it. You have no idea. You figure, well, these people are no good nicks. They should just be in there, and they should be, they should stay in there. The stories that DJ told me of, and the experience he had, were clearly ones of, just the abuses. And he wanted so badly to correct these abuses. And just to understand, well, fast forward now, 20 years later, DJ's still fighting this fight. he is still fighting. He is still trying to correct these abuses. He has not given up. He is retired. He's moved on. He's continued the fight. I've represented other prison guards who had the same kind of whistleblower situations. Some of them commit suicide. They just can't take the pressure. Not DJ. DJ continually fights this fight. And I just, again, I'm humbled by the dedication he has to this. I mean, Brenda, it would be easy enough for him to say, hey, I've done it. I've written a book. I told you guys, you fix it. And he's not willing to do that. He wants to continue the fight. He wants to continue to see change made so that prisoners are treated as humans, so that they go through the prison system. I mean, they did something wrong, that's fine. He understands incarceration is a penalty that we've decided in our society is something you got to pay. But while you're in there, you're going to be treated as a human. So when you get out, you can return to society and be a human. And that's, that's something that he's tried to correct from the inside, and now he's trying to correct from the outside.
It's a battle.
Yeah, it's a battle, and it's a battle he's just not throwing the towel in on. And I like I said, I'm just humbled by his dedication to this effort. And then last year, we thought things had cooled down, but last year he received a credible death threat about some members of a Green Wall, which are a group of prison guards that DJ will talk to you about. And so, I thought, okay, well, DJ, you got to stop now. They're still after you. And it's years later, he said, no, man, I can't. Until it gets fixed, I can't. I promised my father, I promised my mother, I gotta keep this fight going. So, I guess, it's that kind of dedication that, that has kept us to be friends. And whenever he needs something, I'm there. Whenever I need something, he's there. So
we need more people like DJ.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Prisoners are human beings. They have made mistakes, but it doesn't mean that they're all bad people. And we were talking a little bit before we started the show. I am under the opinion that there are some people that never need to come out of prison. They need to stay there. They need to die there. There are also some people that don't necessarily need to be in the prison system that could have been rehabilitated without going to prison. And our system is messed up. It's messed up. It's messed up from the charges, from the indictment process, to the prosecutors, to the judges, to the attorneys that help the inmates, right down on through the prison system itself with the Department of Corrections in any state, the federal system, the state systems, the correctional officers, the medical, the wardens, anything touching prison is not just right now, and it needs to change. It absolutely needs to change. So with that, I'm going to introduce DJ. DJ, tell us a little bit about your background prior to becoming a prison guard, and then talk to us about what led you into becoming a correctional officer.
Well, like Lanny said, I grew up in Camarillo, California. My dad was in the United States Air Force, and I grew up in Camarillo. I attended elementary school there, junior high school there, high school there. I played high school basketball there. I was one of the standouts in the county. I played, that's all I played is basketball. Then from there, I went to a junior college at Moore Park College, and right down the road, and continued my education there, and got a degree in associated science degree in criminal justice, and played college basketball. After that, I had a few scholarships. I had a couple scholarships, Texas, Nebraska, Montana. So I chose a small school in Texas. I went there to try to continue my education and also play basketball. And I sort of got burned out around the mid-1983s, and I came home, and when I came home, I was sort of burned out and playing basketball in college and all that. And my father said, "Hey, why don't you join the military? Why don't you go in the military?" I liked it, so I was in. I'm retired Air Force, and I said, "Sounds like a good idea, Dad." So I joined the United States Army in 1983, and I went to basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey. After that, I got assigned to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home of the Green Berets, which I was attached.
Family in that area, so I'm very familiar.
I was attached to a special forces unit at Fort Bragg. I was in charge of the headquarters in SOCOM. I ended up spending about 4 years there, and shortly after, about 1987, my father asked me if you still were interested in law enforcement. I said, yeah, Dad, I want to get law enforcement somehow. And at the time, LAPD and LA County Sheriff, they weren't hiring at the time. There's a hiring freeze, but the California Department of Corrections was up and coming, and a lot of the jails in California were overcrowded. They started building all these prisons, and I came home, I tested, and I ended up going to the Department of Corrections in March of 1988. And my first duty assignment was Corcoran State Prison. This is a security housing unit, and was a SHU, and mostly the inmates are indeterminate gang members and the heavy guys that were in for life or doing SHU terms, and level 4 mostly were level 4 inmates were lifers. And I ended up staying there for about 4 years, and then I transferred to another prison in 1992, Calipatria State Prison, which is located down by Palm Springs. I opened up that unit. I was part of their elite unit called the Investigative Services Unit, which is otherwise known the Goon Squad, where they like the internal affairs unit for the prison system. I stayed there for about 2 years. Ended up meeting a lady there, and a local lady that lived there all her life, and I had transferred to Pelican Bay State Prison, which is in Northern California, the most highest secured prison probably in the United States then, and is probably now. It's the worst of the worst where people go in California. And I ended up going up there, and I met my old friend Joe Arnoso, who I worked with at Corcoran. He was part of the ISU unit at the time, and he goes, "Hey, I want you to come work for me." I said, "Yeah, Joe, I'll come work for you." So I ended up going back into the ISU unit there as the evidence officer. So I did all the crime scenes at Pelican Bay State Prison from 1994 to 1996. I had to do all the horrific crime scenes, the homicides, you name it. I was the one that got called in.
Yeah, I bet you saw some.
I saw a lot.
Things.
A lot, yeah. And then I helped Joe, and he was involved with the FBI and prosecuting two officers, one sergeant, one officer, to federal prison. Later on, they both were convicted federal prison for setting up inmates for hits on the yard and sharing confidential information to other inmates to get them stabbed on the yard. I sort of assisted in that investigation. Shortly after that, I left in 1996. I left there and I went to a prison called Salinas Valley State Prison, which is in the Monterey, California area. I ended up going there. I activated that prison with my being a veteran and all that. And the warden really liked me. He asked me if I had set up his investigative service unit as an evidence. So I set that whole unit up to get it running. I stayed there about 2 years in that unit. I sort of got burned out, going. I was nothing but ISU for 6 years straight. I just wanted to change. I wanted to go to the yard. I wanted to go back to the line. So I ended up going back to the line in November of 1998. I went to the yard. We had 4 yards at Salinas, A, B, C, and D. And most of the inmates are 85% there are lifers. They don't go. They're never going to go home. And D yard was the worst yard. And it was Thanksgiving, and I was working a local down on Thanksgiving, doing some overtime on my day off. I went in for some overtime, and the upper yard went off. The Southern Hispanic inmates attacked staff on the upper yard during morning yard, and several officers were assaulted. And when I got up there, the lieutenant knew me, Lieutenant Lewis, and asked me if I could do the crime scene because we worked at Pelican Bay together. He was part of this case with what we're doing, me and Lanny. He was the one that came with me with Lanny at the time, and it's all in the book about what he did.
The book he's referring to, folks, is a book that he wrote.
Yeah, it's
about the story that he's going to tell us, called The Green Wall.
Yeah.
And when we get further into it, we'll tell you where you can get that book at. And that's what this is about. He's going to tell us the things that he uncovered inside a California prison system.
So anyways, I ended up, there was a riot up there between Southern Hispanic inmates and staff, and several staff were injured and went to outside agency hospitals. And I ended up doing the whole crime scene there and protecting the crime scene. Nobody moved until I told them to move. Meeting inmates, they stayed in a prone position until I got back from the local hospitals. And after that, I came back and I was starting to tell the officers, hey, I want you guys to bring these inmates to me in the hobby room so I can photograph them. And right away, they went off on me. They called me every name in the book. You inmate lover, what you doing this for? You protecting these inmates, and why you doing this? And I just say, I'll do my job, you do your job. And So, I was a marked man ever since that happened, because they knew they were going to do wrongdoing. These guys were part of the Green Wall. They assaulted these inmates. Later on, they put them back in their housing unit, assaulted them pretty good. For about 2 months later, here comes Internal Affairs down from Sacramento, higher headquarters, and did a big full-blown investigation. And that's what labeled me a rat and a snitch. And then later on during the investigation, the warden called me to his office and he asked me, "Hey, Officer Vodika, do you know anything about this group called the Green Wall?" I said, "Yeah, sir, I know these guys. I'm aware of what's going on here at the prison." And he said, "I need you to write a report about what you know." And I said, "Well, sir, I work with these guys. I have to see these guys every day." And he goes, "Well, I'm not telling you, I'm ordering you." So he ordered me to write a report. I wrote the report. I got a hold of my good friend, Joe Reynoso, who I worked in Pelican Bay with. He was my mentor, my sergeant. And I asked him, "What should I do?" He said, "DJ, I taught you everything. Just type everything, keep a copy yourself, turn it into the warden," which I did. And on Monday, I turned it in. And then 2 months later, I get approached in my vehicle, Sallyport, where I'm working at, by these guys, part of the Green Wall. And they came down to my where my workstation was. And they quoted verbatim what I wrote in my memorandum. The only people who saw my memorandum were the warden. So the warden threw me under the bus.
He sure did.
He threw me under the bus. And shortly after that, I sort of lost it. And I spoke with the Office Inspector General, another big team out of Sacramento who works strictly for the governor. They're the ones that go in and check out the prison, see if everybody's running correctly. And they came down and pulled me out to my house. We interviewed for about 3 or 4 hours. Shortly after that, I went back to work, and 2 weeks later, they come through the vehicle, Sallyport, and all their cars are unmarked cars. I'm like, "Oh no, shit's gonna hit the fan here."
I bet.
And they came in the Sallyport, they just looked at me, gave me that look, checked their weapons in the towers, and they stormed the institution. Nobody knew they were coming. They ended up going to the front administration office, asked the warden, Lamarck. Anthony Lamarck was a warden at the time, had him step out of his office and confiscate all his records and books and files. And the phone was ringing off the hook. You're a dead man walking, Vodika. You're dead, man. You're through. And these guys are all over me. I was done. I was toast. So I got a hold of Joe Reynoso again, and I called Joe and I told him what's going on. He was a part of a unit in Sacramento called the SSU Special Forces, like a not special forces, special unit that works strictly for the governor. They're the above. They're the elite unit of the Department.
Nobody knows exists, right?
No, these guys are like the elite of the elite. They're like, you don't even know they're relaxed. You don't even know they're correctional officers, supervisors. So I got a hold of him. He goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah." He contacted his bosses right away that day, and they moved me overnight to another prison, which is unheard of. And the next day I had to report to another prison in the valley and stayed there for about 7 or 8 months till the word traveled over there that I was no good. I ran to a housing unit during alarm, and I ran through the rotunda. There was a fight in the day room, and the other officers on the yard stopped at the front door. They were coming in. They set me up for a hit. And they were going to take me out of in the day room, but the officer, quadrupled officer, told me to stop. He didn't want this on his shoulder. So he said, "Vodika, stop, don't go any farther." And I stopped in the hallway, and they were going to take me out, so, do something drastic to me. So I left the yard. Yeah, I left the yard, and I went out on stress and PTSD. And then that's when I met Lanny. Went down and saw him, and we battled the Department of Corrections, and here we are. And then shortly after, after our case was resolved and settled, I had to bury my father. And my father told me before he passed away, his last words to me were to write the book, tell the world, write the book. Lanny, his wife, my wife now, and was my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, and start typing. And I did. I wrote this book. I published it in 2009. So here we are, 2021, 12 years later. I've never been challenged on the book. My own union turned their backs on me. I asked for help with the chapter president. He looked at me, he goes, "Oh, you're Officer Vodika. I can't talk to you." And he walked away from me.
Wow, talk about being shunned.
Yeah. The most powerful union in the United States turned their back against me.
And they were supposed to be there for you.
Yep, and Lanny enlightened me on this.
So talk to me about you were in this violent situation, not only because of the security level of the prison you worked in, but because of your coworkers as well.
Correct.
So,
I mean, these guys, I mean, I had to work with these guys on a daily basis, no backup, no thing. I was in a prison with a level 4 prison with lifers. These guys were in for, these guys on the Green Wall, all they had to do is tell these inmates, hey, we'll bring in some drugs or a cell phone for you.
And take you out.
Take me out. I mean, he's no good. He's going to sink the ship, and I didn't want that. I didn't want his knife in my back or my throat cut. I didn't want it out.
DJ, can you tell us a little bit more about the Green Wall and why do they call it a Green Wall? Do they have signals? Do they wear uniforms? Do they socialize? I mean, obviously they work together, so you got that. But what do you recall about how it all got started?
Well, shortly after the Thanksgiving riot in 1998, November, when I did that whole investigation of that incident, these officers who were part of the Green Wall, Brenda, they came in the next day wearing turkey pins on their uniforms. They had a gang sign. They had a gang sign. If you look at it, you grab your middle finger with your thumb. If you do that now, you can throw it up. That looks like a W. That's right. That's a gang sign. They throw it on their chest or the wall. They paint. They had tattoos on their bodies. GW. They call themselves the 723, which is the seventh letter. They call themselves 723. They would sign in on their. We have to sign in every day when we go with a black ink pen. Or our name was on the FOSA. They wouldn't do it. They signed in with a green ink pen to notify they were green.
People knew who they were.
Oh yeah, well
there was no secret that this was a gang.
Secret. No, even the inmates feared these guys. These guys, inmates have done a lot of time. These guys, done a lot of time. Inmates, convicts. When they came out of the yard, they were feared. They knew something was going to happen. Something was going to happen dirty wise. And these guys were bad. They were. If you got in their way, like I did, they'd make it known. They'd go out to your car at night or in the morning. You'd have your tires slashed. You'd have a dead rat thrown on your car. They do anything they can to just
It sounds like that's what you see in the movies.
It's exactly what you see in the movies, but this is the real thing.
Absolutely.
And these guys, and this all started in the internal affairs unit, the investigations unit, where these guys investigate the dirty inmates and dirty staff. These are the guys who were part of the Green Wall. This is the team that went out and recruited to the R's for other officers to be a part of their team. They would have parties. Off-site parties at people's houses, like on a Friday, they'd have the seventh day it fell on a Friday. They'd have a party at their house, and they discuss what they're going to have and who they're going to hit on next week, who they're going to go after, what inmate they're going to go after. They were setting up inmates for third strikes. These guys were no good. I mean, they didn't care what they had because they had the backing from the warden, which I have physical evidence and documentation and deposition testimony that's in the book, that the warden told these guys on the Green Wall, this is my prison. Nobody's going to run our prison. Go put fear and intimidation to these inmates. Nobody's going to control these. We're going to control my prison. Do what you got to do to make it right. And the warden at this prison kept it from his superiors in Sacramento.
Well, of course, because he couldn't be found out.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after that, and then shortly after, like I said, I came home after our litigation was over with, and I sat down and took me about 2 years to put the book together, and here we are.
DJ, what about the you talked about talking at the Senate, and you went to the Senate hearing. I remember being there. I remember as an auditorium, and Senate hearings sometimes you see on TV, and there may be a handful of people. Brenda, this room was full. This 400 people there. It was packed.
Yeah, what happened that night, I ended up going up to Sacramento that night. I was in an isolated area hotel with me and Lanny stayed. Nobody knew where I was, and Joe Reynoso met us the next day. And I was in a bulletproof vest when I left that morning. Our story.
Because you were afraid for your life.
Right. Well, I was testifying in the Senate hearings about the Green Wall. Nobody knew. The state of California didn't know about the Green Wall. The United States didn't know about the Green Wall. Nobody knew about it. And I had to wear a bulletproof vest. Lanny, we stayed there at the hotel in an isolated area. Joe picked us up. I was in a bulletproof vest, went to the state capitol, parked in a certain area. I was escorted into the state capitol by California Highway Patrol, Armed California Highway Patrol, myself, Lanny, and Joe through the state capitol. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor at the time. He was there at the time watching over closed circuit TV. And then we went into, it's called the John, it's in the book, it's called the John Burton room. these huge double doors, you know, and we had to walk into the doors, and as soon as the highway patrol grabbed both doors, opened them up, it was packed. No room, no sitting room, standing wall. The side of the walls were all standing with people. The senators were up there. I had the Senate hearings tape recorded. I actually got the hearings, you know, the whole 2 hours. When I sat there for 2 hours with Lanny in front of the government oversight. They were hearing about the corruption by the Department of Corrections, and Senator Jackie Spear, who was now a congresswoman in DC, she invited me, and so does Senator Gloria Romero and several other senators. And my story hit the front page of the LA Times. It went national that day.
It was
that morning.
huge.
Yeah, they just showed it. Like, you know, and I shared everything then. And Sam and Lanny, you know, Lanny wanted answers, and these guys wouldn't give us answers.
Well, no, because they would have to admit to doing something wrong. So what was the outcome?
I'll let Lanny go with that.
Well, the immediate outcome, so DJ finishes testifying, and the room, as I said, Brenda, the room is full. 400, 600 people, closed circuit TV. And there's a lot of murmuring before DJ starts testifying. And after that, it's just quiet. It is quiet for the whole time of his testimony. And DJ, because we'd been invited, there's no we didn't prepare a statement, we didn't do anything. So DJ just tells the story. And for 2 hours or an hour and a half, the audience is captivated. The audience is absolutely captivated by what has happened, what's going on. And DJ had talked about the prison guards in Pelican Bay that had set up the gladiator fights. They were there, and I'd never met them before. DJ pointed them out, and I thought, oh, for gosh sakes, DJ, we're not getting out of this room. This is just.
It was that bad.
You know, I was really scared, but DJ was, you know, Laney, I got to tell the truth. I got to tell these people what's going on.
Good for you.
The consequences be damned. So he tells a story, and we're walking out, and Joe and DJ and I are talking, and I think it was Joe that said, DJ, you got to get out of here. You got to get out of here, and you got to find some place to go, and just be off the radar. So DJ disappears. He
Off the grid.
Yeah, he goes.
You have to be, or you'd be dead.
He had hiding. I know where he is. Joe knows where he is, and nobody else. Not his parents, not his family, not his anything now. And so DJ's up there. He's trying to live his life and just decompress. Well, come to find out, some officers had come to this remote town and were asking about DJ. And so, you know, DJ figures, oh, this is going to be it. This is, I got to get out of here. He writes about this in his book. I got to get out of here. And I guess it was either early in the morning or late at night. He disappears from this place, and he goes really off the grid. And you know, he tells Joe and I where he is and where he's going. But now he's in. This is mortal fear. This is. I can't even go into hiding without these guys finding me. So he.
And you don't know who to trust.
Well, he knows there's two people he can trust. There's
right, absolutely. But if he slips up anywhere,
right,
he's in trouble.
So DJ kind of disappears for a while. Like you said, he started working on his book and trying to, you know, unfortunately his parents aren't doing too well, and his dad passes away and his mom not long thereafter. But so he finishes this, and then we finished we finished the case after that, right? We go to trial, or we go to some.
Yeah, we had to, after the attorney general who represented the Department of Corrections. She was a little evil lady. Anyway, she had accused me of going back down to Arizona to be with my father, and that I was going on vacation. You know, just, you know, not trying to miss trials in courts. And Lanny goes, no, that's not how it is. And Lanny called the judge and told the judge, hey, this is for real, I guess. And then after my father passed, you know, and a couple weeks later, I went back up to a court hearing with Lanny, and I remember the judge reaming the attorney general's butt for, how dare you do this to what he did. He had to go down and bury his father.
That's
but
good.
The attorney general representing the department thought I was on a vacation, you know, the judge didn't like that. So.
That's impressive, because usually a judge may or may not get involved.
No, this one did. This one was very concerned about any hearings that we had in his courtroom. He made sure his courtroom deputy was aware that DJ would be coming in. It became very aware, that to the extent, there was something on calendar for us, it would be first, so we'd get in and out.
So you had to wait for everything else to go ahead.
Right, and then he assigned us a retired judge as a mediator who eventually resolved it. But I think that the toughest part about a lot of this is that, here was, like DJ said, he was in the Army, and then he became part of the Department of Corrections and a prison guard who, this wasn't a guy who just moved from prison to prison. When they opened a new prison, they sent DJ, go set up the system, go set up the prison. They're going to be level 4 lifers, get it ready so that, the people that come after you will have a smooth transition. So that's who DJ is. He's one of the best. And then this happens where he blows the whistle on the Green Wall. He sues the department. The career is gone. His career is gone. He was ready to make this career, and he enjoyed the work. DJ, you got to tell her some stories about the people you met, and
that's what I was going to ask you, is what was your life like as a guard? Not with the Green Wall, not with the people who you were going up against, but your day-to-day life with inmates. What was that like? What's your opinion on that?
When I worked at Corcoran State Prison, I was assigned to. The kitchen sergeant, Charlie Martinez, he oversaw all the feeding in the whole Corcoran and Corcoran shoe. He goes, hey, I need a good officer. I want you to open my shoe kitchen for me. You're going to self-feed all my inmates over in the level 4. You're going to have to help me sell 2,500 inmates, get that breakfast out on time so they can get their program, they'll get the food out on time, make sure it's hot, make sure it's packed, you name it. Well, I had an inmate crew, huh?
Can you tell Brenda about Shoe? Because I don't think.
Yeah, Shoe is a security housing unit. It's 7. They get self-fed. They don't come out to the chow hall. They don't get to eat with other inmates. They're in
isolation, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the worst of the worst. They're like one step below death row. These guys are all indeterminate gang members, all staff assault. These guys can't program on the main line. So we have to self-feed them. And every day, 24/7, and they go out to the yards. They get escorted out to a yard and then released with their own race. But I had to get these guys fed. And I had a crew of about 25 inmates from the level 3 yard that came and worked with me and my other partner, Officer Gonzalez. And we had this crew. We had this down set for 3 years, and we had a great crew, great inmates that respected us. All of them wanted to work for us. We had guys every time we walk on the yard. Vodika, you got a job? I want a job. I want to come work for you, because these inmates that worked for us, they took care of us. We took care of them. We showed them respect. They gave us respect. They enjoyed work for me and Officer Gonzalez and our kitchen sergeant at the time. So we had a good, tight crew, and I wanted out. But the custody captain said, the only way you're going to get out, Officer Vodika, is you're going to either promote or transfer. And I said, okay, I'll transfer. And that's when I went to Calipatria State Prison.
I see.
But when I was at Corcoran, I did meet Charles Manson. I got to see Charles Manson.
What was he like?
He's scary, little, about a 5'3" little man, beady black eyes, little swatch. He tries to intimidate you, but he was different, short. The inmates didn't really
not
like
what you would think. You would think of him being a big man with
the other heavy gang member I met, his name was Joe Morgan, Peg Leg. They call him Peg Leg. He was the Mexican mafia. He was the general, the one that was running the Mexican mafia at the time in the state of California. He ended up later respected. He was white. He was a widow. His mom was white and his father was Hispanic. And he came up through the 60s and 70s of that gang era. And he was locked up at Corcoran. I would say, hey, Officer Vodika, how you doing? I say, hey, I always call him Mr. Morgan. I didn't want to call him inmate or convict. He said, I'm doing okay. Are you going to win today? The guy was great at handball. He killed every inmate in handball. The guy could play handball. I mean, the guy was with one leg. with one leg. I mean, he took the leg out. He was, but he was great. He was great. He respected. If you gave him respect, you got the respect back. Because if you didn't give him respect, I don't know if you're going to make it. I don't think you're going to make it home unless you're going to be home in a body bag. But remember, he was the shot. He was the man. I mean, if he didn't like you, you disrespected him. And, oh yeah, you don't know if you're going to come home alive or come home and somebody's going to be waiting for you. So it's how you respect these guys. You know, it's all about respect.
DJ, tell us a little bit about the shot callers, because that was a term that you used pretty readily around me, and I never really understood it. What is a shot caller?
A shot caller is the one that controls, like an ABs, like the main line yards. They're the ones that control that ethnic group, like white, black, Mexican, Southerners. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that report to the higher ups whatever's going on in that yard. And like the gang members in California, they're validated, like the Southern Hispanics, the Northern Hispanics, the BGF, the Aryan Brotherhood, and certain other gangs. They have their own what they call council, higher up. Mm-hmm. And the shot callers on the yards of all the prisons in California would have to anything going on in that prison. They would report it to their higher ups, let them know what's going on, and then the higher ups would say, and the higher ups would give them the green light to take out either an inmate or a staff member. If somebody was disrespected, they would give the green light.
So it's its own little city inside these walls.
Correct. And
crime is still going on.
Yeah, well, you know what? When I started, Brenda, I opened up the 16th prison, Corcoran State Prison, and when I got out, the 36th prison, and when I got out, there was 180,000 inmates confined in California. 180,000. That's including women and men. That's not including the youth authority. That's 18 and over. And it costs about $85,000 a year to house an inmate in California.
Yes, it's very expensive. Very expensive. And so, what was it like being on the yard? I was talking to Lanny prior to, and he said that there would be 4 guards to 4,000 men.
Well,
approximately something like that.
There'd be like on the weekend when there's no school or education, or they'd have like 3 officers on the yard, 1 guy at the control booth, 5 housing units, 1 guard at each window. There's 1,000 inmates on the yard, so they all came out usually on the weekend, nice week. There'd be 900 to 1,000 inmates. Mm. And we were the only thing we had on was our batons and gas masks. We didn't have a weapon. We relied on our gunners up top to watch on that.
Right. Well, if you had a weapon, it could be taken from you.
Correct. Well, we had our batons and pepper spray and gas masks, but I saw
There's
fights.
Still a lot of men coming at you. I don't care what kind of stuff you have on you.
You know, and I saw, like, I was the evidence officer. I did a lot of homicides, a lot of crime scenes, and I saw a lot of horrific crimes. And I walked down a lot of officers, 30 officers that were bringing in contraband for inmates. And these guys on the Green Wall, they were no good. I mean, these guys were, if they didn't like you, you're a marked person. They don't care.
It was a business for them, wasn't it?
No, not really a business.
No?
They wanted to control the prison. They didn't want the prison to be overtaken by inmates, inmates tell them what they're going to do. No, it's not that. The warden told them, you go out and do what you got to do. You have my backing.
So it's completely different than in a lot of other prisons.
It was power. Mm-hmm. Who had the most power? I mean, some of these guys were probably dirty, but when I was in these guys in the Green Wall, it's all about power. You're going to do it my way. You're not going to go home. We had guys that were ready to go home on parole that had been down for 20 years. A week before their parole, and now these guys were setting them up, planting weapons in their cells and giving them the third strike and giving them life. Yeah, if you had a son in the prison, I'll just give you a scenario. You haven't seen him in 20 years, and he's coming home this Sunday. These guys, part of the Green Wall, knew him, and he was a problem to a lot of the guards. Let's go set up inmate Wood. Let's go plant a weapon in his cell. So, who are the courts going to believe? They're going to believe the guard, or they're going to believe the guard? Inmate?
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, the inmate doesn't have a chance.
And that's what these guys were doing.
So you have a different outlook on inmates. You want to see success if they are to be sent back out to the community. You believe that they have the ability to be good citizens, to be good contributors to the community, if they have truly been rehabilitated. Do you believe in second chance?
Absolutely. Second chance, absolutely. And I believe that they should, come out and at least adapt to the society. But again, if they come out and they do good and they're doing real well, absolutely. But if they're coming out in the society and just, say, yeah, I'm going to do good, I'm going to come out and then commit crime, I'm against that. I mean, if they have their mindset
It is a mindset.
and support their families and support them and make a better life for themselves, oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I'm all for that. But if they're coming out just to say, you know, before they come out, they're saying, yeah, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna do good, but deep down inside,
They know they're not.
They're gonna go back to their old ways, then I'm against that.
Well, I am too.
You know, I mean, I felt sorry for that officer going out to the woods and blowing his head off and leaving suicide notes, you know, that, and leaving a little boy, you know. I mean, I have a little boy. I don't want to tell you where he's at, but when all this was happening, Brenda, my son was 5 years old. 5 years old. I took him to a mid-state fair with me. He'd never been to a fair. I walked in there and I came out and I was approached by a couple sergeant who was part of the Green Wall, ran up on me in front of my son. Drop the case, Vodika. You let him go. My little boy, 5 years old, saw it.
Yeah,
5 years
you had to
old.
be terrified.
And Lanny was so upset. I told him right away. He got a hold of who he had to get a hold of. And
These guards were just as bad as the inmates that they were supposed to be protecting. Yeah, because it's in my experience, a correctional officer is supposed to be there for the safety of inmates, the safety of other correctional officers, and to make sure that the daily operations are carried out according to what the guidelines of the correctional facility is supposed to be. But that's not always the case, is it?
No. Oh, no, these guys, I mean, they adhere to the code of silence. The code of silence is very powerful in all law enforcement in the prison system. These guys, you know, if you don't go along with them, you know, they're going to make it evil and bad on you, you know. And I didn't have that, you know. I took an oath, you know, when I graduated the academy. I took an oath to protect and serve, and not to be a part of the code of silence. And
Right.
it runs deep, you know. I mean, and it's still running in the Department of Corrections in California, and it's running in every law enforcement out through the United States and corrections and all that. You know, it just accountability has to start, like I said, from the top.
It does.
You
That
know,
was
it
gonna be my
has to
next
start from the
question.
top. It has to start from the top, and you know, you have to share this with Congress people, senators, and
Yes,
outside
absolutely.
government to let them know what's going on in these prisons and get strong lawyers. You know, like I had Lanny. I mean, he stood by my side for the whole time, the whole duration. He believed in me. He said, DJ, it's going to be a long battle, but we're going to win. It was a 5-year ordeal.
It's hard not to win when it's the truth.
Right.
It's hard not to win when you have that
Well,
hard evidence.
Lanny, the Department of Corrections doesn't like Lanny's name. When they hear Lanny Trump's name, they pucker.
That's because he did his job.
Of
course they don't like that.
When they hear his name, they know he's evil.
Well, I'm glad that you found the right attorney for this. So you have written a book. All of this is in there. Tell us where to get this book.
Well, I wrote the book. You can get it on Amazon.com. That's where everybody buys on Amazon.com, or BarnesandNoble.com, or iUniverse. I self-publish it. I control the rights, and it's called The Green Wall. And you know, and you know, like I said, I wrote this on behalf of my father, and then my wife. You know, my wife now, and she said years ago when I wrote this, is, you know, you got all the evidence. Go start typing. You got all the evidence, all the documentation. Just go in there, start typing, and that's what I did, you know. And then after I'm all done, I sent it to Lanny, and then his wife looked through the whole thing, and fine tooth and comb, and here it is, you know.
What I think you have to take from meeting someone like DJ and learning about his experience is that you're never too small to make a difference. And as
true.
much as, you know, as DJ was one of 30,000, one man against the Green Wall, he persisted in spite of, you know, some really astronomical odds at some point, and these death threats, etc. But you just, when you see something wrong, you got to say something, and it's what we, DJ and I, really preach, is that you see something wrong, you got to say something. You got to say it to someone. And I think the environment is now just right for this. When you see something wrong, you see law enforcement doing something wrong, say something. Don't hide. Don't be part of the code of silence. DJ got the Department of Corrections to institute new training on this code of silence.
That's what I was
DJ
gonna
got,
ask you, is what was the outcome? Mhm.
yeah, California legislature to add more whistleblower protection because of DJ. You get lawyers now recognizing when they, it's a good idea to represent inmates because there are these atrocities, and it's a benefit to society. If we can change the way the prison system works, you have a better chance of rehabilitating, almost resurrecting some of these people, because they're not.
That's a
And
good way to
Brenda,
put it.
as you said in the very beginning, some of them should stay there forever. I get it. Some they're just too far gone. But a lot of them just need to be treated with respect, and just do your job and be a human being.
Right.
As a prison guard, and they will respect you. I mean, here's DJ talking about the leader of the Mexican mafia, and calling him Mr., not convict Morgan, not inmate Morgan, it's Mr. Morgan. And you can imagine the kind of respect that fella felt every day he ran across Vodika. He's thinking, this guy
It made him feel like he was still a human being.
Correct. And so, the sad thing about the Green Wall is that they tried as hard as they could to destroy all that, destroy all the goodwill, destroy all the positiveness that DJ and those that were of the same ilk were trying to develop. And so, I just, the prison guard that killed himself, if he'd have just said more, he would have still be around. And if I come across whistleblowers in all kinds of fields, and it's hard. It's really, really hard, Brenda. It's hard for these people because they're going to get humiliated. They're going to be ostracized. They're going to be just sent out to pasture. But you got to do the right thing, because every morning you want to look yourself in the mirror and say, I did the right thing. It's painful. It's painful for DJ to send his son away and his wife away and his family away and be isolated and hidden. But every day he'd look in the mirror and say, I did the right thing, as hard as it was. And he continues that fight. He's just never, like I said, the guy's amazing. He just won't give up.
Well, we need more people like you, because you could have very easily turned the other cheek.
Sure.
Or became part of the Green Wall.
Sure.
And you chose not to. And that's good. You stood up for the treatment that they were doing towards other inmates, towards other officers, just towards everybody that was involved. And that says a lot about your personality. If you could give advice to, because this show that we do is about educating the public about all aspects of incarceration, the good, the bad, the ugly. What piece of advice would you give somebody that doesn't really know a whole lot about the system, that has a family member that's just now going in?
Just be careful. The prisons are they're a pecking order. I mean, prison's no joke. Go in there with, don't go in there volunteering stuff. Don't go in there, keep your head high. Believe in yourself. If you're not doing life and you're going to come home one day, just program. Do the right thing. Don't cross other guards. Don't cross staff. Don't disrespect staff. Just go in there and do your time. The other thing I want to say is, Brenda, is when it comes to officers now, and I'm talking to the wardens and superintendents who run the prisons in the United States and California and Kansas, all this. If an officer comes in and he sees wrongdoing and he wants to see you, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Warden, and he wants to come up and tell you about what he sees as wrongdoings, you have an obligation to protect that man. You have an obligation to see through and do a proper investigation and not to retaliate against that officer for coming forward and telling you what's going on at your prison. Otherwise, you know what? You're going to have another thing going on, like the Green Wall,
Within a build.
Yeah, it's going to happen. So trust your officers. They're your first line eyes of your staff on the line. They see wrongdoing. They have no one to turn to, and if they report what they see as wrongdoing to you or to your supervisors, act upon it right away before it gets out of hand.
That's great. He's given advice now to both an inmate and to a correctional officer as to maybe how they should handle themselves in a situation. Again, he has written a book about it. If you want to know all the facts, if you want to dig deep, go get the book on Amazon. Hold that book up again, The Green Wall by DJ Vodika. He's not going to tell you any more information as far as where he is, or take on calls, or be out there for the public to ask him questions. So everything is in the book. So if you want to know what prison is truly like, if you are not in the system, if you don't have a family member that's in the system, if you've never worked in the system, get this book. It will shed some light on what the reality is behind the wall, not just for the inmate, but for the guard. And then what the inmate goes through as well. It's life-changing. It is a life-changing experience, and that can be life-changing for the good, or it could be for the worse. And it's all the mindset of the person that's in there. And that's both for the inmate and for the correctional officer. Like he said, there's correctional officers that have taken their own lives because of things that have happened that they could not handle, as well as inmates have done.
And the family members that they're incarcerated, they're going to prison and stuff like that. Be behind your loved ones and be there for them, and visit them as often as you can, because that's what the inmates look for. They look forward to that. They look for that visit every weekend, and that's a big break for them. So if you get a chance, just stay with them and be their support.
Regardless of what they've done, they're still your son or daughter. They're still your niece or nephew, your brother or sister, your mom or dad, your uncle, your aunt. They're still people that you once cared about. So there's no reason why you should stop caring about them just because they went to prison.
I mean, I've been on podcasts in the UK, the Philippines, Australia, several international countries in the last 6 months. And I just want to share my story and let everybody know, and it's the truth. The book's nonfiction. It's the truth.
It is the truth. And you sharing those stories put your life in danger. It put your family in danger. It changed your whole way of life. And people need to understand that. When you see this book, put yourself.
I also, my wife just said something. I also, I have no gag order. I speak the way I want to speak. They tried to do a gag order, but Lanny says, you ain't going to do that.
Right.
If you want a gag order, we'll go to trial. Well, let's go to trial. And they tried to put a gag order. I mean, Lanny said, he's going to write a book. He told those guys he's going to write a book.
And I'm glad you did. Well,
and they real quick, they tried to ban my book from going to the Department of Corrections. They don't want my book in the prison system.
Well, of course not. There's a lot of books that get banned and they don't even have near the content that you have in it. So is it banned? Can it get into prisons?
Well, it's not on the ban list in the Department of Corrections, but they won't allow it to come in. I mean, there's a ban list at the California Department. I look at it and it's not on there, but they're not, for some reason, they're not allowed to come in.
Okay. Well, you can kind of see why. I get it, because you're telling stories about the inner workings of a prison system that an inmate could take advantage of, possibly. That's the way they're looking at it. I'm not saying that they will, but that's what management's looking at, I'm sure. And I'm sure they have all read it.
I'm sure they have.
I'm sure they have.
Absolutely. It's been captured both in this interview and in his book. I want to thank Brenda for inviting us. It was
no problem.
Very kind of her to let us share with her listeners the stories that we've lived through, and our opportunity to share them with someone so that hopefully we can change their lives in some way, some good way, knowing that you get into a sticky spot and you want to blow the whistle. There is someone. Give me a call. I'll try to help you out. We do this all the time. And that, again, never, if you see something, say something. Just if you see something, say something. It will make a difference.
Or do you want to be the person that helps, that soothes, that loves, Because you can still stand tall and be as big as you want to be when you are this person.